Hi, welcome to the Hustle and Flow Show, episode 2. So this is a boxing video. I wanted to put something out there showing regular training and, physical, mental training that enables you to kind of, generate more energy and vitality within the system, so that when you go out and you're trying to, close those business deals or bring in new clients or sign those contracts, you've actually got the energy to do it. And I think that if you are living correctly, boxing will be relatively easy. If you are not living correctly, you will be dying after one round. And all of your vices, all of your bad sleep habits, any kind of excess habits that you're engaged in that you shouldn't really be doing, when you start training in boxing, you get exposed very, very quickly, because effectively you can't even keep your hands up. There's a lot of cardiovascular strength or cardiovascular endurance, power output, strength, speed, dexterity, skill levels that are involved in being a good boxer. Obviously there's a massive difference with weight categories as well. So I've boxed guys who are like 45 kilos and they buzz around you and they'll hit you in places 4 or 5 times before you land a glove on them. So you've got to try to keep them at bay and then just land when you can. But effectively it's a fantastic way to get into training. As you can see here, my hands are a little bit low. I'm just getting back into it myself and trying to effectively start generating the movement patterns again. A lot of it is shifting your body weight from side to side and trying to generate the force whilst moving. So if you can box while moving or punch while moving, and then whilst you're doing your defensive maneuvers as well, just keep moving around the bag, keep moving both ways, use both arms. Basic techniques to learn, I would say, definitely learn how to jab, cross, left hook, right hook, and the 2 uppercuts. Overhand right is also a very sneaky, dangerous punch for most people, because they don't know really how to defend it, and it's kind of hidden when it comes over. It just looks like you're kind of like dipping a little bit, and then suddenly you've launched this massive, cricket ball style overhand right punch, like a curved arc. So it can be quite dangerous as well. And probably first time, I would say everyone naturally gets put into this through being at a school and getting into fights or getting into stupid fights with people when you were younger. And you all think you're invincible or you're Super Saiyan, and then you come across someone and you can't beat them, and you start thinking, right, I've got to take this a bit more seriously. So you go and join a boxing gym. First time I joined a boxing gym was actually in Northampton, and there's one in St James, and quite a rough area. And I remember just feeling lightheaded. I couldn't even make it through the circuit session, and I had to repeatedly go outside and just get some air. And I realise now that because I was training before going to boxing, I was actually low on salt and magnesium, and that's what was causing the lightheadedness. But I've always had quite a fluid movement for the actual boxing. But over the years, due to smoking habits, drinking habits, generally going out and stuff like that, my cardio reduced quite a lot. Until recently, I say recently, about 2-3 years ago, I started taking my health and fitness a lot more seriously. But then it's strange, because your lungs have got used to basically being on a lower capacity, and then you start training again and you're like, oh, I've got another 20% in the tank. So I'm not recommending doing any of that, but it is quite interesting how it kind of all comes together when you're training. And just keep sticking the jab, rolling around, hitting a few right hands. It's really, really fun actually. This bag here is one of the lighter bags. It's not a proper heavy bag per se, it's not one, and it's a bit low in terms of its height. So proper heavy bag, normally they're above, you can punch kind of shoulder height and above, and most of the weight is in the middle of the bag, and they are kind of traditionally pinned to the ceiling with some sort of structural steel work, or they're basically heavy bags designed to be hit hard. This one's all right, but it's not really a proper heavy bag. But it does the job regardless. It allows you to kind of buzz around. So that's the end of the first round. I think I did 12 of these. So here's some data from the Whoop band that I was wearing during the boxing session. And as you can see, it's saying building aerobic fitness and strength. You spent 56 minutes at 70 to 80% of your max HR. Heart rate, this is 15 minutes more than you typically spend in this zone. What you can also see is the kind of peaks and troughs, and they're all consistent around, I would say, 125 to about 150 in heart rate. You can see 20 minutes at zone 4, which is 80 to 90% of HR or heart rate, and 56 minutes in zone 3. So it's quite a high cardio / aerobic activity boxing, considering that you're not actually running or cycling or anything like that, but it does push your heart to quite a high kind of capacity relative to strength training. I would say you only really reach these states when you're going for 1 rep maxes, heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, for example. And the beauty of this basically is if you get bored of doing cardio, let's say you don't like running, you don't like cycling, boxing is a really fun activity. It's very stress relieving, it's very tactile, it includes all of your limbs, it introduces a lot of rotational force in the axis, you're a lot calmer afterwards, you feel a lot more chill. It's a fantastic way to get into cardio and kind of training if you're not as interested in weights or running or cardio, etc. So I definitely recommend it to anyone who basically is looking to start training but is bored of their current kind of setup or doesn't want to do the traditional techniques or routes. Okay, so I'm kind of rolling into maybe the second round. So initially when I go in, what I'll do is I'll spend the first 10 or 15 minutes dynamically stretching ankles, knees, hips, spine, rotating both ways, shoulders, elbows, wrists, and then bending and twisting and lunging. And basically what you're trying to do, or effectively what you're trying to do, is slowly warm the body up for range of motion. Another great one for warming up is basically lying on the floor in a hurdler's pose and kind of with your legs at right angles and hurdling sideways both sides, and that allows your body to warm up effectively. Because if you go straight into this, you'll have a lot of higher possibility of an injury first of all, but your arms and shoulders and your elbows won't really produce at the right capacity. And I think it's really important to try to warm up correctly so that you're avoiding injury, but you're getting the most performance out of your sessions. If you're serious about improving and getting better, then effectively what you want to do is try to warm up effectively so that when you actually go onto the bag, your body's warmed up. So I always think of this like a car. So if you drive a manual car and you're in Europe or the UK or America, you don't just turn the car on and slap it into 6th gear and start ragging it up the road. You have to slowly turn the engine on, let it warm up for a quick sec, and then put it into 1st gear, put some gas in, rev it up a bit, and it will start to move slowly. And you want to shift the gears gently, and then when you're up to a reasonable speed, then you can start putting your foot down. By that time the engine's warmed up, everything's ready to go. And if there are any issues with, say, the spark plugs or anything similar to that, then you'll know because it will go, or the tyres, it will go before then. As you can see here, what I'll probably do is start the first part of the session. If I'm doing a 4 or 5 minute round, I'll try to go a bit longer than I need to. I will do kind of jabs, right hands or crosses, and then as I get more tired, I'll move in close to the bag for more kind of hooks and uppercuts and stuff like that, because it's actually more fun, and I would say it's easier to throw the hooks and uppercuts, even though they're power punches per se. But to be moving around, waspy, hit, not get hit style is more difficult in terms of the cardiovascular fitness required to keep the output capacity high enough so that you're both moving correctly and hitting the bag, because it's a whole hand-eye coordination issue. Your mind will say to you, you can do this and do that, but then your body, if it's not, adequately conditioned or trained effectively, you will struggle to keep the output high. I'm just checking the clock here, missed back there as well. And yeah, it's a fantastic one. As you can see, my hands are quite low as I'm just, you know, still trying to get back into it. And yeah, just there's a video there. So some more kind of boxing stats. So the longest boxing match ever recorded was 110 rounds long. It took place in 1893 between Andy Bowen and Jack Bird. The marathon match lasted 7 hours and 19 minutes, which is just ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, you know, 10 minutes can be long. 9 minutes in a boxing ring can feel like an hour if you're untrained. It just, the distortion of time is ridiculous. So the fact that they lasted 110 rounds, I don't even know how to put it into words. I think people back in the day were just built more ruggedly, like there was less food around, life was harder, people were more mentally tough. They just accepted that life was difficult and they got on with whatever it is that they had to do. As I think in modern day, especially in the Western world or developed countries, modern day people are just soft. They have an incapacity to deal with any kind of pain or discomfort. But anyway, that's beyond the point, right? So the oldest world champion in history was Bernard Hopkins. So B-Hop is a legend. He's controversial as well. He was 46 when he won the IBF light heavyweight title in 2011, and that's a ridiculous achievement. Boxing has been featured at every modern Olympic Games since 1904, except for the 1912 Stockholm Games. Professionals were allowed to compete starting at the 2016 Rio Olympics. The youngest boxing world champion was Wilfred. This is the final round here, so just a few kind of stats and statistics for boxing. So boxing is actually one of the oldest sports in the world, with evidence of the first fist fighting depicted in Sumerian reliefs or tablets from the 3rd millennium BC. Modern boxing originated in England in the 18th century, and the earliest record of sanctioned boxing goes back to 1681 in Britain, and the first boxing rules were introduced by heavyweight champion Jack Rawton in 1743 in order to protect the fighters. The oldest boxing world title is a linear heavyweight championship, which can be traced back to when John L. Sullivan won the heavyweight championship. And the earliest boxing world champion in the modern sense is generally considered to be Jem Mason, 1870. The world record of most first round KOs belongs to Wilfredo Gomez with 21 KOs in the first round. Mike Tyson has the second most with 19, and you know, is known for speed, especially in the heavyweight category. Is that, you know, if you've got enough power, one punch can change the whole destiny of the fight. So for example, there are people out there like, you know, Deontay Wilder, who are not the most technically skilled people, but they possess that fast twitch one bang punch that if that lands, you're basically flat out and you'll be gone from there. So, you know, it's an interesting sport because there's massive skill and technique advantages and conditioning advantages, but there is also cheat codes to it. You know, if the power levels are high enough, if they're over 9,000, then you land it, then, you know, it's kind of you know, night. But you know, with the lighter boxers as well, and the women's boxing as well, I would say the technique's often much more crisp, and the frequency of punches is much higher. With the heavyweight guys, because they're heavier and they're carrying around more weight, it's more like slugfest. It's like, you know, long, heavy, hard punches that they're throwing back and forth, and you know, it's definitely for myself, I'm about 6'1", and I am around 93 kilos, 92 kilos at the moment. But I'd like to drop down back, you know, below say 85-ish, so I've got another stone to drop. But effectively, the heavier you get, the harder you punch. But then there's a trade-off at a certain point, and the trade-off is that you get tired more easily, and your speed reduces somewhat as well. So there's a sweet spot for speed and strength, I think, if you're using this for fitness. But then also, you know, at the end of the day, when you look at most, you know, let's say you go into a pub or a bar or some sort of a sports establishment or somewhere, and there is some sort of a self-defense issue, you have to defend yourself. The guys who are on the doors, or, you know, security guards, not the friendliest, often probably used to dealing with annoying characters all night long, but effectively most of these guys are like, you know, they're bodybuilders, weightlifters, and they're not necessarily always trained martial artists or trained you know, in combat sports, and so it's a different skill set. I think people often confuse strength and powerlifting and being really strong in the gym with being good at fighting, and there are massive overlaps in terms of the strength, speed and the power, but there's also a massive difference in the sense that, you know, you don't really want to be 150 kilos fighting, because your heart's not going to produce enough kind of blood so that your body can, or, you know, pump your blood quick enough so that your body gets all the oxygen in time. So there is a trade-off at a certain point, I believe. Now, if your main purpose is just to scare people away, then you're massive, no one's going to come near you anyway. So it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. But if you actually want to be physically dangerous and you think, right, yeah, I'll be really quiet, I probably won't get picked on, and I always, you know, try and be honourable and, you know, decent with it. But, you know, if it ever had to happen, I'm happy to switch on some magic. Then you don't want necessarily to be too heavy, because, you know, functionally you're not as strong or as powerful or as quick. So I would definitely say that if you are starting to train, get a pair of decent wraps. I'll show some wraps in a second. Get a decent pair of boxing gloves. Even my first pair, they were like 15 quid off eBay, a red pair, and you know, they were great for just smashing the bag. And then I've had a few more pairs since then. I don't really like the straps on the Everlast boxing gloves. I think they're quite cheap. They don't really stick properly, and that's quite annoying. So yeah, I would definitely recommend ensuring that you get, you know, gel straps and a decent pair of gloves in order to protect your hand. And, you know, it's definitely worth something that you should be trying or training on a regular basis.